will be rolling through the sciatic nerve in the hamstring region. So the sciatic from the lumbar segments of the spine, and then it comes into the pelvis and goes underneath the piriformis. So the piriformis also often is a big part of sciatica, but there can be different things that cause it. It could be a lumbar spine dysfunction. It could be a piriformis dysfunction. It could be a pelvic dysfunction. It runs between the bellies of the hamstring, down the back of the hamstring. So a lot of times people can think they have tight hamstrings, but it's really that their sciatic nerve doesn't glide too well. So I want to do a little bit of gliding in that area today too, instead of like a static hamstring stretch, because it will allow just for the tissues and the sheaths to move along one another. And that will give us more functional mobility, because all of the tissues have to glide and slide. You can't stretch or lengthen the nerve like you lengthen a muscle per se. It's not a contractile tissue, but we can lengthen its ability to move by freeing the tissues around it. So the reason I'm saying is this because you might want a few props for today. Some of you may be more comfortable sitting in a chair to roll through the hamstrings. Sorry. So I'm actually going to grab just a little stool that I have because I don't have a good like compact chair for you to sit on. And there are a couple different ways we can do it, but a chair is a nice way. And so we can work on mobilizing the hamstring sitting here. Welcome for you those that have joined since I started chatting. So we can do it sitting on a chair, which is really nice. I'll also show you though that you can do it also on your knees. If you'd prefer to have more of that kind of yoga type experience closer to the ground, you can take a block and then also kneel on it here. And there's no way that's better. They're exactly the same thing. So when we get there, you can try either option. The one thing that is nice about doing it sitting is when we have this here, we can get that rolling over, but we can also get a nice pin and stretch of the hamstring as well. So that's what I like about the sitting option. So I just want to show you that because that's a tool we don't normally use. And then we're also going to stretch, like I said, by gliding the sciatic nerve. So it's more of a dynamic type hamstring stretch that's addressed at nerve glide versus muscle lengthening. And to do that, you might want a towel or a belt. I would not recommend like a stretchy strap. The stretchy strap will be, won't give you a firm resistance. So I have this belt, towel or strap so that you don't have to hold the leg up. Again, you can do it without this. It's not necessary, but it really makes it a lot easier so you don't have to hold the leg and hold the arm up. So those are the things that you'll need today, as well as a set of therapy balls. And I think that's enough to begin. Let's begin today in standing. So take a single therapy ball and you're going to place it right under the heel. So the termination of the kind of the main sciatic nerve ends right at the base of the heel. This is the place where the plantar fascia originates as well. So we're just going to do a quick standing mobilization into that space, pushing down, right, like you're standing on a high heel, squishing the ball and putting your weight into it. Make sure when you're here that you soften your knee. So you'll notice maybe your initial reaction is to lock the knee and kind of stick the hip out, and then just maybe do that even. Maybe like push down so that your knee locks, and just look at what happens to the back. And you'll notice that you start to come into an increased curve. So soften the knee, soften the tailbone so the tailbone becomes heavy like an anchor. And with my knee slightly bent, I'm just gonna go across. I'm just gonna scrub across the bottom of the heel. And again, we're just getting right to that end, the termination point. So we're gonna work from ends kind of back up. Because these first ones are a bit more active. And then as we go on to our back, so we'll be a bit more back and hip focused on regaining that mobility and isolation there. Great. And then go ahead and step off. And actually just here, just for a moment, just to give yourself a little checkpoint, maybe even bend forward and notice if it feels different from left and right as you come towards a forward fold. This is a good just sort of pre-check position to see. It stretches the whole posterior chain, so all of the myofascial structures that surround the sciatic nerve. So this is a good place to begin, and we can come and check this again later. And you might already even notice a difference from left to right. So slowly come up and let's go to the other side. So now press down on the heel on your other foot. Keep the knee soft so that you don't hyperextend your knee and hyperextend your back. Think about keeping the knee soft, the back soft, and then just scrubbing across the bottom of the heel, right at the front edge of the heel bone. This is also where the plantar fascia begins. Great. Maybe just sustain just a moment of compression. You might feel a little bit of tenderness there as you just push the heel down. Take a few deep breaths. And notice if you feel that those sensations radiating anywhere. And then release. And now we'll make our way down to the floor. Let's take your second ball and take your balls out of the tote. And now we're gonna keep working our way up back towards the spine, kind of retracting along the line of the sciatic nerve. And here, I wanna come and catch the nerve now where it runs between the muscle belly of the gastroc. So I'm gonna sandwich the gastroc. And I'm gonna get right into kind of the fattest part. And I'm gonna put the ball under my shin of the bottom leg and then between my shins. And here, it's like I'm squeezing or clamping down on the gastroc soleus. And now my bottom foot is the foot that's clamped because of the ball sandwiching that calf. And you should feel a little compression there. And you might even roll up or down a little bit to find that just right spot that's a little tender. There is so much really dense, really thick fascia in the lower leg. And then now, once you find a good spot, you can point and flex your bottom foot. And that's going to start to create this little pulley, a little flossing. Sometimes nerve gliding is actually called nerve flossing. That's actually a term they'll use. And so we're using the foot to get this flossing action, this lengthening, and then kind of receding of the nerve, as well as all of the connective tissue structures. So in the lower leg, keep going with that point and flex, maybe change your ball position a couple times. You can just roll it up or down a little bit, kind of searching, exploring the whole calf by sandwiching it. And so like I was saying, the myofascial system in the lower leg is super, super dense and tight because it has to help maintain the fluid balance in the body, because with gravity, if we didn't have strong fascial systems down here, all of the blood, all of the fluid would pool to our legs. Our body is at least 75% water. So it's really these like compression stockings internally of the fascia that are kind of keeping things in place. So here they can get really restricted. And because of that, that's why a lot of times we'll have the nerve symptoms in the calf. So take another minute if you need it on this side, and then just switch calves. So we're sandwiching the calf. I like to find a spot like kind of in the bulky, meaty part of the calf, and then we'll move around in there a little bit just by creating a little, by bending and straightening your knees, you can just change the position. And then it's the bottom foot right now that we're mobilizing. And if you'd like, you can lie down. You don't have to stay sitting up like me. If you're lying down, it would just look like this. And then I'm going to find a slightly different spot in the calf. Sliding those balls around just a little bit, looking for that little bit of sensation as you clamp down on the calf. And then create a pin and stretch action, a fulcrum type action to floss the soft tissue structures, which include the nerve, as they move between the bellies of the gastroc. Making sure you find a couple different spots or ball stops along the lower leg, creating a little calf sandwich. Take about 3 more breaths here. And release. Remove the balls. And now let's keep working our way up. So next, I want to get at the interface of the calf and the hamstring. So I'm going to place the balls right behind my knees. And I'm going to sit back for a second. Just warning, if you do this, it's really intense, because I want to show you how the hamstrings and calves cross at the knee. It's kind of like you're doing one of those trust falls and you want to interlace your hands really tight. So you cross your hands over your wrist and then you pull. That's exactly what happens at the calf and the hamstring behind the knee. So they pull like this. So it's really hard to penetrate. So when we bend the knees, it softens those a little bit so that we can get in a little bit more. So we're taking the balls right behind our knees, and then I'll give you 2 options. Since most of you have a chair nearby, you can start to make your way back to sitting on your heels, holding the chair. Or maybe you're just like, that doesn't feel great for me. And maybe a better option is coming towards a child's pose. And here in this child's pose, you have that nice ability to get this gentle rocking action too. You can also get it in sitting. And choose where you land, because if you sit upright, if you find your glutes clenching and your calves tightening or start to fight against that sensation, then it's too much. If your body starts to have a guarding reaction, it's always too much. So back off and find that position of comfort. So allow your is sustainable. And then take several deep breaths here. And then if you have done the rocking, also find stillness after rocking in or soothing yourself in. Finding stillness to allow yourself to observe the sensation of the body is really important. When we're doing a lot of movement, often like sensations, if you've ever had these symptoms in the past, you've probably found when you stop is when you start to notice. So as we do this work, remember to pause and listen. What is your body saying? And then walk your way up about halfway, so you're more towards a hands and knees type position, and just slide the balls down a little bit. Now they're more in that kind of broadest part of the calf so that it comes towards like the middle of the hamstring. And we'll get a little compression through the calf and hamstring now. So just nice compression here. And just sit right on your heels now. Now you can probably sit back much more easily. And you might notice the sensation feels very different from left to right. Or it might feel like the balls need to go in very different spots from left to right. And that's okay, allow it. And then just see if you can soften with some sustained compression right into kneeling. And if the balls are too much, this work can even be done with a rolled up towel, something that's a lot less firm. The firmer, the more intense the sensation, and more isn't better, especially when we're working with the nervous system. If we stimulate the nervous system with pain and guarding and reactive type behavior, what's going to happen is that our body's going to go into that protective state. So we're looking to ease in to these sensations so that we can tell the body you're safe, you're supported, and you can let go a little bit more. Take about 5 more deep breaths here. And then slowly let them come out. And let's transition either to our seat, or if you're going to stay on your knees, finding your block. And first I'll show you here, but then I'm going to come to the chair because I really like the chair variation. So as you arrive kind of more into a high kneeling, take that therapy ball and place it right on top of the block. And the block's going to go just between your feet, and then you're going to sit back onto the block. And now you can sway the hips side to side, and you're going to move the muscle belly side to side so that you're kind of going across the hamstrings, like strumming them. And then you might find a few spots of sensation. You can just pause and melt and sit into it. And then if you're coming to a seat, take the ball underneath your thigh And you can just start to move the leg. I'll face you actually at first. Move the leg in and out a little bit. And then that leg might even swing side to side, internally and externally rotating. This is actually a really great manual technique when someone has sciatic type symptoms and you're doing manual, like massage type work on them, myofascial work. Kind of this sort of action is really, really beneficial, I've found. So I really like that swinging action. And then change the point in the back of the thigh. Find a few spots. And then if you find a spot too here in sitting, you can start to get a little bit of a nerve gliding action. So here's where that kind of hamstring stretching type action happens, where it's really a misnomer. People are like, oh, my hamstrings are tight. I have to stretch my hamstrings. But really, the nerve and the connective tissues aren't gliding. So just when you're doing this, just barely lengthen until you feel resistance. It's not about getting the legs straight. And if you don't have a ball, you can even just, even if you're sitting and are having these symptoms, you can even just take your hand and bring your fingers right behind the thigh and use your fingers too, bending and straightening the knee. You might even feel that glide a little bit. Feeling for where, and then you have your fingers, which are really perceptive. So you can feel where, you can feel where it glides. And you can even do the same thing as you twist. So you don't need any tools to do this in sitting, and anyone can do it. But oftentimes this is below where the sciatic symptoms actually begin. Although they do get stuck up here too, so it's important to gently mobilize this area. It's really important to continue to move up the chain. So let's go to the other side, and same thing. You can hug the leg if you don't have, and also too, the balls can be replaced with something like a can. I have a friend that she's been using a jar wrapped in a towel for ages. She's like, I'm gonna buy the ball someday. She's like, it works great. So there's lots of things you could use, a rolling pin. You don't have to purchase anything. And first, just explore the back of the thigh. Find that just right spot. And then you can, I like to rotate first. I like to do the hip internal and external rotation first. I find that helps kind of free it up. So using whatever you have, your ball, your hands, making sure that you're isolating from the hip and that it's not your body that's twisting. And then you could start to bend and straighten the knee. As you bend and straighten the knee, just go to where you feel that first bit of pull. You're going to feel pull at a lot of different spots, and you're like, yeah, I can go further, but then you're going to miss some of these more subtle restrictions that may be keeping the nerve from gliding. Finding a couple different spots, exploring the whole back of the thigh between the hamstring muscle bellies with your ball, with your hand. Noticing what kind of symptoms arise, just listening. Even if you sustain compression and pause in stillness, you might notice even a bit more. Take about 3 more breaths. Last time. Great. Okay, let's come back to that recheck of the forward fold. And I just want you to notice if there's a difference. There may be, there may not be, but the more you do this work, the more perceptive you'll be of changing. So go ahead and stand up. Very carefully and gently fold forward, reaching towards your toes, and just notice if it feels different than the first time you did it. And then roll back up. And now we'll come all the way down to the floor. So like I said, there are a lot of different sources for sciatica symptoms, but it's really important to have free movement of all of the joints and have good glide and slide of the myofascial structures that house the nerve. And if the surrounding structures are stuck, the nerve will also get stuck. So we freed up by movement at the ankle, we freed up by movement at the knee. Now we're gonna come into the hip. So like I said, the sciatic nerve, which is one of the deep six hip rotator muscles, external rotator muscles, lies right over the sciatic nerve. And in, I believe, almost 20% of the population, I might have to check that number, but I think almost 20% of the population, that the nerve actually runs through the muscle. So if we have something going on there, if our pelvis is out of alignment and that muscle is imbalanced, most likely we'll have some sort of sciatic type symptoms. So we're gonna come into the hip and address that now. Go ahead and lie on your back. And we're gonna use our hip rotation to do that. So I'm gonna start on the right side, which is closer to you. Like most classes, I don't tell you left or right. You just choose whatever side feels right and follow along. I'll usually tell you if you need to pick a side for cueing. But it doesn't matter today, so pick whatever hip feels right. And then bring the ball right into the middle of your buttock. And even if you don't have a ball, or if you're too sensitive to have a ball, just doing the movement itself is enough. So even without the tools, you'll have benefit doing these movements. So right here, just that side that has the ball under it, without moving anything else. So maybe you put your hands on the pelvis to stabilize the pelvis and the lumbar spine. We're just gonna rotate the hip inside the socket. So we're gonna bring the hip out to the side, just to that first edge without pushing it, and then come back up. So again, isolated movement, knee falls out to the side, pelvis doesn't move, back doesn't move, and then come back up. Do that again. So see if you can isolate just the ball moving inside of the hip socket. Nothing else moves. When this mobility becomes impaired and the pelvis starts to move and the lumbar spine starts to move, we start to have breakdown of movement. And oftentimes that's the cause of dysfunction. And now the next time the leg comes out to the side, just squeeze your behind, squeezing into the ball so that you kind of lift up off of the ball a little bit. The glutes engage, those hip external rotators engage. And then you levitate almost a little bit off of the ball. Even if you don't have the ball, give it a try. And then release, because that contract and relax principle in the body is really strong. Let's do that one more time. Maybe repositioning the ball if you feel like it needs to be in a different spot. Always listening to where the body is leading. And then release. And now I'm going to have you sway your hips side to side. So now the hip stays still, but the pelvis is moving in a side-to-side swinging fashion, kind of like a pendulum or like the hula. Just sweep the hip side to side so that you're sweeping over the whole back of the hip. Do a few more sweeps, maybe even pausing at a place that feels sensational. And you could even do another contraction here. And then release. Now, I want you to actually rotate the spine over to the right a little, or over to the leg you're rolling a little bit. Now, so that knee comes towards the floor. Now I want you to externally rotate the hip more so the whole hip pushes into the floor. And you actually feel the buttocks contract, the leg push out, so that you're isolating the external rotators of the hip. We're contracting again so that they're all the way in that shortened position. Feel that activation. Hold for about 7 seconds and then release. Make sure the ball's in that just right spot. It should be just off of the back of the hip. So you're just around the edge of the greater trochanter, behind the bony part, where the muscles, all the hip rotators attach. And then do that again. Push the knee and shin down into the floor so that you feel the butt engage. And again, you kind of levitate, almost bridge a little bit here. And then release. And then do that one more time. Squeeze your behind. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. And now let your pelvis come back towards center. Remove the ball. So now take the leg you just rolled, and again, it could have been either side, and cross that foot over your opposite knee. Now you're going to come into a little spinal twist, and this doesn't require any balls, any tools. And so with your leg crossed over your opposite knee, let the foot that's crossed over your knee come towards the floor. So that foot's standing upright on the floor. Try to keep the opposite shoulder down so that you're getting this nice spiral and this lengthening through that side now. Now, push that foot into the floor and push your knee away from you so that you're pushing into that same external rotated position. So hip is going one way now, and the knee is twisting back the opposite way. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And so even though we're stretching here and rotating here and rolling here, we're also getting muscle activation so that we're learning how to isolate that movement and re-educating that movement with contract, relax, and using it at its end range so that we can move through the full available motion. So again, push your knee away. Foot's pushing into the floor, knee is pushing away, and then hip is rotating a little bit more into the twist. Try to keep your opposite shoulder down so you're twisting, but then engaging the hip. And then release. One more time. Push, rotate. Foot really anchors into the floor so that you have something to push off of. And the knee is pushing away down towards the feet. Hold that. Feel the back of the hip engaging for 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Unrotate back to your figure 4 type stretch. And now we're going to come right into that stretch, that piriformis stretch. I'm going to give you 2 options here though. So if you'd like, you could just stay right here, hug your knee, just like this. And if it's too hard to lie on your back, you could just do this stretch in sitting too. Cross one foot over the opposite knee, do that piriformis stretch in sitting as something to do for 1 minute at a time during the day, just to get 1 minute of stretching in. That's great too. So here's perfect. But I'm I'm lazy. A lot of you that work with me often know that. I like to do as little effort as possible so that my body can be completely relaxed. So my favorite way is I'm just going to bring my foot over to the curtain so you can see. I'm going to put my foot, for me, it's the ledge of the window. But if you're against the wall or even have your chair nearby still, put one leg up, put the other foot over. And then this just gives you a really nice supported way to come into that so you don't have to work as hard. And let's spend about another minute here, wherever you are. I really want to get a good, at least 90-second stretch in this posture. Taking deep, letting go breaths. Also note what's going on in the jaw right now. Is there any clenching? Is there any guarding? Where in your body are you protecting? If so, can you relax a little bit more? Can you soften and allow yourself to just be here without efforting? The jaw and the hip are often closely connected. So if there's guarding or sciatica or piriformis stuff going on in the hip, oftentimes there will be a TMJ type symptom going on as well in the jaw. And just note, a great thing to do just to bring awareness to that during the day is as you're going around, and if you're starting to feel tight or stressed about something or worry, just bring your awareness back to your body and notice, am I clenching my teeth? And then just observe and remember, okay, I'm safe. I don't have to clench my teeth. I don't have to do that, and soften the jaw. And then continue on. And then just come back to that periodically for the day, throughout the day. Just 1 minute of mindfulness about where am I holding tension and stress in my body. Take one more letting go breath, exhaling fully. And then let's come back and let's do the other side. So bringing the ball right to the middle of the opposite glute. Place it right in the middle of your buttocks. And then bring your hands to your pelvis. And now let the knee rock in and out. And again, you don't need any therapy tools to do this. You can just lie on your back and practice letting the knee move without letting the pelvis or the spine move. And so we're isolating rotation in the ball and socket joint of the hip, learning to separate movements so that we can restore better movement patterns. And the next time the leg is out to the side in that rotated position, give the glute a good squeeze. Squeeze and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And just notice the difference between left and right. And then do it again Squeeze your behind. It's like we come into the contraction and into that guarding, because after fully contracting, then the body can remember how to fully relax. And then release. And then let's do that one more time right here. Squeeze the buttocks. And then release. And then you can let your knee rock over to the side so that the knee is on the floor. So now push the shin and the thigh into the floor so that you further rotate the hip, and hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. 2 more times just like that. So really push the whole lower leg and the thigh down. So you're rotating and feeling the back of the hip engaged to do that rotation. And as you do that, you'll feel a tightening where the ball and the body meet. And release. And then last time, pushing down and relax. And now sweeping across the back of the hip, just massaging, stripping along the hip rotators from the sacrum out to the back hip bone, all across the buttocks. And then release the ball completely. Take your foot into that figure 4 position, bringing your ankle over your opposite knee, and then allow your foot to come towards the floor into a rotational stretch in the spine so that you're elongating that side of the spine too here. And now push your foot into the floor and then push your knee away towards your feet. Again, engaging those hip rotators, isolating the hip rotation and the gluteal activation for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. 2 more times. Push. And release. Last time, push. And release. And then unrotating, coming into your figure 4 stretch. You can do it sitting, you can do it right here, or you can even spin or slide so that your foot's up on the wall or the chair. And then hold it right there. Let's give a good 90-second hold. Wherever you are, you can get this position, stretch in any position, and it's a great place to check in during the day. Breathing deeply, allowing the breath to fill the whole back body, allowing the jaw to soften. If you find that you're efforting, back off on the stretch a little bit so you can soften into it and sustain it. And then uncross your leg and just for a moment, hug both knees into your chest. And as you hug your knees into your chest, think about maybe pulling the knees down instead of up. So as you push the knees down towards the floor, it lengthens and flattens the low back. Creates a little bit more gapping in the SI joints, a little bit more length in the spine. You may even rock side to side from SI joint to SI joint, giving the sacrum a little bit of massage. Perfect. And then we'll come into our final stretch to integrate all of this. And this is where I said having the strap is nice. You don't have to have the strap, but if you can just hold behind your thigh. But if you have a strap, you don't have to work as hard. So you can take the strap around the bottom of your foot. Begin with your opposite leg bent, and if you can keep the spine completely flat, you can, and even on both sides, you can lengthen it out. But if you find that when you straighten the leg, your hips go off or your back is no longer even, keep that leg bent a little bit. I'd rather have you have stability in the back and pelvis so that we truly get a good nerve glide. And from this kind of stretch position, pull the knee into the chest. So you're going to bend, and then you're going to reach through the heel and straighten. And let's do that about 10 times. Bend the knee into the chest, and then straighten. And so now this looks a little bit like what we did in seated. But now with the spine stable, we're getting all the way up to where those nerves exit from the spine. And this is a really great way to mobilize the nerves. And if you're feeling any sensation, back off a little bit. When we're working the nerves, we don't want to create any heat or tingling or buzzing or numbness. Then we're doing too much. When you work with the nerves, less is more. So don't try to get your knee straight. That's not essential or even beneficial. And then now on the next version, the next round, keep the foot up in the sky. Keep your knee slightly bent. Again, just like when we were standing, I said, don't hyperextend the knees. And back is flat, pelvis is even. And then now just point and flex the toe a little bit. So now point the toe up towards the sky and then pull it back. And you may notice as you pull it back that you feel a little stretch sensation. And that's actually nerve stretch. So be very careful. Don't overdo that. Edge of sensation and then point that toe away. And you're flossing the nerve here, the whole nerve from spine to toes. 2 more times. And then release. Knee comes to your chest. I like to bring the other foot up to meet it. Then I take the other foot out of the strap. And now I'm on the other side. So again, flatten the back here with the opposite leg bent so there's equal space on both sides of the spine. The leg you're not moving, the stable leg, can stay bent or it can make its way towards straight. But straight isn't necessarily better. If that twists the pelvis, moves the lumbar spine, keep the foot flat. In this work, less is more. And now 10 times, knee to chest, and then stretch the heel up towards the ceiling. No need to straighten the knee all the way out. Couple more rounds. Breathing deeply, keeping the shoulders relaxed, the jaw relaxed, the back flat. And then when you're ready, changing that motion to a point and flex of the foot up in the sky. And again, even without the strap, you can just hold the thigh and point and flex the toe. The strap just makes it a little easier on the arms, easier on the neck and head. Like I always say, try to do as little as possible. And then release all the way, hug your knee into your chest, remove the strap, and lie flat on your back for one moment, feeling your legs just sink to the floor. Maybe you feel a little warmth, a little flush of sensation. Allow yourself to notice whatever sensations you're feeling in the body, pausing there and allowing that all to subside, taking a couple deep breaths, returning to an easy resting posture. Noticing how you feel. Relaxing the feet, the calves, the thighs, the hips, the low back, the diaphragm, the rib cage, the shoulder blades, the shoulders, the neck, head, face and jaw, whole body relaxed and at ease. Allowing the body to integrate the work we just did so that you can move more freely. As you transition back into whatever is calling you in your daily life. Take as much time as you need to roll to your side, using the ground to push yourself up. And then meeting me in sitting. Thank you so much for your time, for your work. Hope to see you again soon. And please let me know if you have any questions.